Minnesota has one of the nation's first Medicaid-funded programs to help people find housing. It costs taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. But a KARE 11 investigation discovered clients who claim they're not always getting what you're paying for. Here's AJ Lagoe with Housing Hustle, a new Recovery Inc. investigation.
You're walking along with KARE 11 Investigates, following the money trail to a company billing taxpayers millions.
We're going to go pay the Brilliant Minds offices a visit.
Brilliant Minds Services provides Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS, a Medicaid-funded program designed to help people with disabilities find and maintain housing. Minnesota DHS oversees the program, which is exploding in cost. State HSS billing data shows from July 2020 to the end of 2024, DHS paid out $248 million. That same data reveals Brilliant Minds is one of the state's highest billers. Last year alone, paid more than $1.1 million. Their listed headquarters is the St. Paul building.
Suite 120, so it's right here.
What led us to this door?
Door's all locked up.
Is a story buried
So Brilliant Minds started 3/8.
in Medicaid billing records.
Over $2,000 in supposed support that they gave me.
Due to safety concerns, Rachel Lean asked we not show her face.
Scam. 100% scam.
Rachel's story begins at RS Eden, a Minneapolis addiction treatment center. In February 2024, Rachel, previously homeless and battling addiction, was successfully completing treatment. She'd already signed this lease for an apartment, a new start on a sober life with her young son. A friend told her Brilliant Minds, an HSS provider, could help. She texted the Brilliant Minds contact, Aiden, saying she had already found a place and, at this point, I need help getting things for my apartment, like a vacuum and cleaning supplies. We got you for sure, she was told.
They weren't helping you find housing?
No, not at all.
Then came this text.
Hello, my name is Mohammed, and I am your direct housing coordinator from Brilliant Minds.
There's some back and forth texts about setting up a meeting that Rachel says never happened.
I never met with them. I never did any type of housing plan.
Unbeknownst to Rachel, Brilliant Minds began billing Medicaid,
Hundreds and thousands of dollars.
claiming to help her find housing.
$1,648 for me.
At KARE 11's request, Rachel emailed Brilliant Minds asking for her detailed records. They show Mohammed met with Rachel in person on March 8th for 3 hours, from 9 a.m. to noon, and they spent a quality amount of time getting to know one another. RS Eden records prove Rachel was actually in treatment at that exact time, not getting to know the young man in this Facebook photo.
Probably submitted a claim, lied, and said that he met with me.
Between March 8th and April 6th, Brilliant Minds claim Mohammed spent 30 hours assisting Rachel with her housing search and application process, billing Medicaid more than $2,000. Remember, she already had housing. Rachel texted on March 20th.
I said, hi, Mohammed. I moved into my new place. I'm in need of help transferring my electricity into my name because I have a very large past bill that I'm unable to pay. Also, I need a vacuum cleaner very badly. Can you help me with this?
Right after being texted that Rachel was in her new place, records show Brilliant Minds billed Medicaid as if Mohammed spent 6 hours trying to find her a new place.
The Brilliant Minds records claim on March 22nd and 23rd, Mohammed researched affordable housing and delivered household items to Rachel.
Yeah, there's no way. There's just no way.
She has proof. Days later, on March 27th, Rachel texted her original Brilliant Minds contact, Aiden, that she had not been helped with anything, never met with the worker assigned to her, and was starting to think this whole housing stabilization service is just a scam. The text chain shows Aiden apologized and sent Mohammed over to her home.
They just showed up one day and gave me a vacuum cleaner, and that was it.
Even after being at her apartment, records show Brilliant Minds billed taxpayers for 12 more hours trying to find her an apartment.
Nobody's here. Let's try giving them a call.
That's why KARE 11 is standing at their door.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check
The phone disconnected. Every time we visited, during listed business hours, the office dark and locked.
This looks like a dead end.
Secretary of State filings list another mailing address in Woodbury for Brilliant Minds. We tried there. The home? Vacant.
There's a realtor's box on the door. It doesn't look like anybody's living here.
We eventually received an email response from Brilliant Minds that all services rendered were thoroughly documented. They were more than willing to submit all relevant documentation to DHS for official review and declined to be interviewed.
Taxpayers paid $2,000 to this company for you to get a vacuum cleaner.
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Responding to what they label program integrity concerns, earlier today, DHS told KARE 11 they're going to change how they background and screen HSS providers to now provide enhanced oversight. They'll be handled at a high-risk level. For KARE 11 Investigates, I'm AJ Lagoe.
Minnesota is making changes in the wake of a KARE 11 investigation that revealed more questionable Medicaid billing practices. The state is increasing oversight of companies that provide housing stabilization and autism services. Two areas where fraud has emerged as a major concern. Danny Spiewak leads us off tonight with that. Danny?
Well, Rena, just last night, KARE 11 Investigates reported on a housing stabilization company that billed Medicaid thousands of dollars for services that a client called questionable. Now, the Minnesota Department of Human Services has announced tighter screening requirements for both housing stabilization and autism services providers to better protect taxpayer dollars.
Over $2,000 in supposed support.
This week, KARE 11 Investigates introduced you to Rachel Lean, who accused the Minnesota company Brilliant Minds Services of billing Medicaid for housing services never provided.
Scam. 100% scam.
The KARE 11 investigation caught the attention of the Minnesota Department of Human Services.
That was a very upsetting story.
Temporary DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi wouldn't confirm whether the agency is investigating Brilliant Minds, but said DHS will stop payments to any company found to commit fraud.
It's absolutely unacceptable for providers to be taking advantage of Minnesota's vulnerable citizens.
Now, DHS has announced that companies billing Medicaid for housing stabilization and autism services will both be classified as high risk starting June 1st, meaning tighter oversight.
We can have enhanced background studies, fingerprint-based background studies. We can do unannounced site visits. And we also can do screening.
Meanwhile, in the last 2 weeks of the legislative session, state lawmakers are discussing several measures to tackle fraud. Governor Walz's proposal includes bolstering DHS staff and using AI to better detect questionable payments.
I think it's really important to pass the governor's fraud prevention package or something similar so that we have more tools to protect our programs.
This year, the House has a whole new committee led by Republicans related to fraud oversight. And that committee will be holding a discussion Monday morning specifically about Medicaid fraud. So, Rena, this will be an issue we'll be hearing about a lot over the next couple weeks.
Any chance they're going to be able to get something accomplished?
It does sound like there's bipartisan support in the House and the Senate. Governor Walz has even said that he's supportive of some Republican proposals around fraud. So it's actually something that they might be able to get done.
Tonight, a KARE 11 investigates a housing program that's supposed to be a lifeline for those rebuilding their lives. But what our team uncovered is allegations of fraud, forged signatures, and tax dollars exploited. Here's AJ Lagoe with Housing Hustle, a new Recovery Inc. investigation.
Here we go.
You're on a stakeout with KARE 11 Investigates at an out-of-the-way office building in Brooklyn Park. The man getting behind the wheel and blacked out windows of that luxury ride runs a company called Leo Human Services. This is one of their advertisements. They're paid millions in tax dollars to help find and maintain housing for people with disabilities like substance use disorder.
I've never got an hour of help.
Stephen Smith is in addiction recovery. He says he found his own housing, but recently discovered Leo Human Services claimed to help him.
Yeah. Crazy.
That help billed to Medicaid for thousands of dollars.
We have a bill for $755 and then $531 again at the very bottom for another bill for $755.
Stephen remembers getting a few phone calls, but that's it.
I never met with them. I've never even seen them.
The Minnesota Department of Human Services oversees the Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS program. Their rules clearly state HSS services are medical Medicaid services, and some of them must be provided in person.
Who are you? You never helped me.
Stephen is not the only one to tell us they never met anyone from Leo Human Services.
Hundreds and thousands of dollars. I have no idea who this person is. None.
Due to safety concerns, Rachel Lean, Stephen's girlfriend, asked we not show her face.
I had never heard of this company. I never met with them. I never talked with them on the phone. I had no idea who they were. I'd never even heard of them before.
Carol Evan previously documented how Rachel signed up with another company called Brilliant Minds Services. They build Medicaid for housing assistance. She can prove
hundreds and thousands of dollars
did not happen. Her records reveal Leo Human also billed her Medicaid for $14,000 in just 8 months.
I was literally flabbergasted. Who is Leo Human Services? Who are they?
They are a for-profit company run by this man, Assad Adow, out of the Brooklyn Park office and this Blaine home where he still lives with his parents. State data shows Leo Human Services is one of the state's top 10 HSS billers, last year charging taxpayers $1.2 million.
Hey, Mr. Adow? AJ Lagoe from Care 11. I need to ask you some questions because we're hearing about clients that are saying you're fraudulently billing Medicaid in their name.
Yes, sir.
He did not want to answer questions.
I'm tired. I just got out of work. This is not the cool time, man. It's not a cool time.
Well, we've emailed you and haven't heard back.
We have so much work to do. I mean, I'm being asked questions here.
Well, people say you're not doing work, that you're billing thousands of dollars for work that's not being done.
Come on, man. Let's take the proper channels, man. I'm doing everything I am correctly, and we can take the proper channels.
Well, you've got my contact information.
Since its launch in July 2020, HSS billing exploded. State data shows by the end of 2024, it had reached a total cost of $248 million.
And DHS has been warned. It's a program ripe for fraud.
The housing advocacy organization Hearth Connection issued a report to DHS last August following a statewide survey that warned reports of predatory activity to enroll individuals without their knowledge are increasing.
So that's something that needs attention.
However, at a January Senate hearing, then DHS Commissioner Jody Harpstead acknowledged yet downplayed concerns.
Because there's a lot of rumors of fraud more than there is actual fraud.
Stephen says what happened to him is no rumor.
Bad, bro.
At Carol Evans' request, he asked Leo Human Services for his client records. They emailed him this housing consultation, which says he legally signed it.
I did not sign this legal document.
Stephen points to the odd way his name is listed.
I've never signed my signature junior. Why would I say that I'm Stephen Junior Smith? Well, my middle name is actually Stephen Dwayne Smith.
Documents like this often leave a digital trail. Carol Evan extracted the metadata and found a bombshell.
Wow. Wow.
Stephen's signature.
Oh, man.
Which he allegedly signed on 8/28/23, was in fact authored the next day, 8/29, by someone named Watts Haneen.
Who's Watts Haneen?
I don't know who Watani is.
We have documentation that shows you provided this record, and it's allowing your company to bill for somebody in their name. They didn't sign it. It looks like it was forged, sir.
Nothing was forged, man.
No answers, and today, no accountability for housing help clients say they did not get.
There needs to be housing stabilization, but there needs to be, accountability.
Full transparency, we don't know who Watts Haneen is. We just know their digital fingerprints are on this record as the author of Stephen's signature, and this record allowed Leo Human Services to bill his Medicaid for housing services he says he did not get.
Well, you mentioned the top 10 services for housing stabilization. Do you plan to go through each and every one? Because as taxpayers, I think we would appreciate if you did.
We are taking a look at a number of companies outside of the two that we have already reported on, and we're finding there's a lot of connections between these companies, same addresses.
And when you hear the former head of the DHS saying there's more rumor than there is actually fraud, what's your response to that?
I'd say you can just follow our reporting. We're finding tens upon tens of millions of dollars in Medicaid fraud right now.
And are you encouraged at all by what the government is doing? They seem to be interested, I know, in your reporting and starting these fraud departments.
They are certainly do seem to be taking this seriously. You know, there's fraud's getting a lot of attention up at the legislature right now, and they're trying to build out a more robust system to catch this, to use artificial intelligence maybe to help spot anomalies that we're finding by going through records.
And I know you're highlighting cases that were very egregious, but it just does seem like, is there any oversight?
It is the million-dollar question. I know they're pushing at the legislature to create a statewide inspector general whose job it would be to look at this on a high level, and we've all heard what our former U.S. Attorney Andy Lugar said about there being a problem with fraud here in Minnesota, and I do know that a number of official investigations are being launched into what we've been exposing. I heard from DHS just today, and they told me they have open investigations now into Leo Human Services and Brilliant Minds.
Not putting up with it.
And we're done with this. I mean, this is not, it can't happen anymore. And so thank you for pointing this out to us.
With just days left in the legislative session, the budget is not the only concern. Lawmakers are also scrambling to introduce reforms in the wake of a KARE 11 investigation. Our team exposed significant fraud concerns in a $100 million a year housing program. Here's AJ Lagoe with the latest developments in Housing Hustle, a Recovery, Inc. investigation.
So you're uncovered once again something that we should, as a system, been on top of.
Usually, at Minnesota's capital, you don't find Republicans and Democrats in lockstep. Usually.
And some people could actually come to harm or even die because of this kind of fraud.
And that's what it's all about. It's that life and death, and here we are, the most vulnerable people, the poorest of the poor, people with disabilities and our elderly. Somebody is taking totally advantage of that.
Minnesota Senators, Democrat John Hoffman and Republican Jim Abler, responding to KARE 11's investigation that exposed fraud allegations in a state-run Medicaid program to help the elderly and people with disabilities find and maintain housing.
I never met with them. I've never even seen them.
Stephen Smith and his girlfriend Rachel Lean,
Billing $2,000, $600.
say they had thousands of dollars billed to Medicaid without their knowledge.
I mean, it goes on and on and on.
By Leo Human Services, a for-profit company.
Why are thousands of dollars being billed to Medicaid?
These are not the correct line of questions. I'm not being asked the correct line of questions.
You're the person who's running this company, correct?
Well, yeah, I'm overseeing it. Yeah, most of it, yeah.
Assad Adow ultimately drove away in his BMW without explaining what he thought KARE 11 should be asking him about. The Minnesota Department of Human Services says there are official investigations now open into Leo Human and multiple other housing stabilization providers KARE 11's looking into. Lawmakers say DHS needs to cut off funding immediately.
And they have a duty. And so they need to know there, when they see somebody with their hand in their cookie jar, that they don't get to keep it, and they quit taking away the chance to get at the candy jar.
The candy jar, in this case, the HSS program, ballooned last year, costing taxpayers close to $100 million.
You know what I could do with $100 million? You know, we could actually...
You could house every homeless person in the state.
Yes, you could, Jim.
The senators say reform must happen before the legislative session ends.
You've only got what? We got a week left when we're sitting here?
We're going to have something. We will.
It needs to be done?
Yes, needs to be done.
Absolutely.
What the senators, who are leaders on a key human services committee, are proposing is mandating only nonprofits can bill Medicaid for the housing program, cutting off for-profit companies completely.
I'm glad there seems to be some urgency. It's so frustrating. There's so many people with real needs. To know that this money is being scammed is so frustrating.
That's part of what had the senators so upset, is they're tasked with cutting almost $1 billion from the human services budget that would go to things like nursing homes and group homes that are desperately needed in our state, and then they're seeing money going out the door this way.
KARE 11 Investigates continues to dig into allegations of fraud in Minnesota's $100 million a year taxpayer-funded housing program. Here's AJ Lagoe with the latest in Housing Hustle, a Recovery, Inc. investigation.
Downpouring rain. I couldn't imagine being in a tent right now or under the bridge trying to stay dry.
Julie Quiros knows all too well what it's like to be without shelter as storms rage. She spent the Minnesota winter living out of her car.
And to wake up freezing ice cold and having to go outside and pee, and you can't move because you're so damn cold, it sucks. It really, really sucks.
We met Julie at a friend's place. She's still homeless, battling a past of addiction and mental illness.
I guess life likes to throw you with curveballs now and then, you know, and happens. I guess depression hits you and it just consumes you.
She's found it hard to find housing. Last fall, she responded to an ad in a gas station bathroom promising help.
Liberty Plus, Liberty Plus.
Liberty Plus LLC offers Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS, a Medicaid benefit to help individuals with disabilities and seniors find and maintain stable housing.
Ad in the bathroom at Holiday. Like they had a pamphlet, like a flyer that said, need housing, need help with housing, Housing Stabilization Services, and they put their name and their number.
DHS rules are clear. HSS services are medical Medicaid services, and some of them must be provided in person. But Julie says she didn't meet anyone from Liberty Plus, just gave them her Medicaid insurance info.
Over the phone, just over the phone.
Despite promises, no housing help came. And so did Winter.
And then to be waiting and just being filled with hope, like, oh, we're going to get you housing, we're going to get you housing any day, and you thinking, you're sitting in there in the cold thinking, okay, any day now. And that any day never comes.
In February, Julie was quoted in a Star Tribune article expressing frustration with the HSS program. She says, all of a sudden, Liberty Plus wanted to meet in person.
They're young, like 20-year-olds. Like, I mean, I don't even know if they're old enough to drink.
Carol Evan tried looking them up on Liberty Plus's website, but that just showed stock images of people named caregiver name. State filings show Liberty Plus, founded in 2022, is run by a 25-year-old named Anwar Adow. His home address in Blaine looked familiar. It's the same house tied to another HSS company called Lagoe Human Services that also hung advertisements around town. It's run by a man named Asad Adow, who, after prior Care 11 reports, is now the subject of state and federal fraud investigations. State data reveals in 2024, Liberty Plus billed Medicaid $772,000, a jump from the prior year of more than 17,000%. Liberty Plus never responded to Care 11's emailed interview request. When Julie asked the company for her billing and service records, they left her a voicemail.
Hey, Joe, just reaching out here from Liberty Plus with the Housing Stabilization Services.
Terminating her as a client.
That's what the part ways regarding providing services.
7 months of housing hope wasted. Julie knows she can't stay at her friend's forever.
Tornado warning in this area until 2:45 p.m. Central Daylight Saving Time.
It might hit.
And new storms strike when least expected.
Well, we're upstairs on the top floor. We'll be okay.
We had to end our interview right there with tornado sirens sounding across the metro. DHS tells me Liberty Plus is under investigation, and we're continuing to unravel a web of interconnected businesses suspected of exploiting our state's most vulnerable. Julie, we'll have that part of the story tonight at 10.
I know a lot of people watching at home almost want to throw things at the TV at this point because it just keeps being unraveled, and it doesn't even look like they're trying that hard if in fact they are defrauding people. But when you put on your website caregiver name, you don't even take enough time to...
That website's been up for quite a while, so clearly not a lot of attention was being paid to it. And the more we dig, the more we find. We're not even ready to report out all the facts yet, but we're finding very strong evidence that billing has been done for people who are deceased, that there's kickbacks and bribes involved. I mean, the more you dig, the more you find.
Turning off the spigot to taxpayer cash. The state taking action against a company at the center of a Care 11 investigation into fraud and forgery allegations. AJ Lagoe is continuing to follow the money. Here he is with the latest developments in Housing Hustle, a Recovery Inc. investigation.
Here we go. The BMW driving business owner behind Lagoe Human Services is no longer in the fast lane to taxpayer cash.
Did you buy this car with all the money you're billing taxpayers?
I didn't buy this car, but you guys asking too many questions, all right?
We definitely had a lot of questions. Asad Adow's company was billing Medicaid millions to provide Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS, for people like Stephen Smith.
Crazy.
Stephen and others told Care 11 they'd received no services. And we discovered evidence Stephen's signature on legal records signing him up for housing help was not signed by him.
I did not sign this legal document.
What's your connection to North Home?
They're just a consulting agency that we partner with.
We asked Lagoe that question because Stephen's housing consultation with the suspect signature that allowed Leo Human to bill his Medicaid was done by Mohammed Omar at another HSS company called North Home Healthcare LLC that in 2024 billed taxpayers $1.6 million. Carol Evans' investigation discovered a complicated web of interconnected companies. Secretary of State records show North Home is run by Mohammed Omar, who has a second HSS company called South Home Healthcare that billed Medicaid another $392,000. South Home Healthcare LLC is apparently being run out of the third floor of this Roseville apartment building. Unraveling the corporate trail, our investigation discovered Mohammed Omar has yet another company called Moto Express, registered out of the exact same Blaine home as Leo Human Services, the same home where Lagoe lives.
Are they related to you?
No.
How come the man who runs it has a business that's also registered at your home in Blaine?
Because we know of each other, but we're just agency partners.
Carol Evan emailed Lagoe's partner, North Home, asking for an interview to discuss client concerns they'd performed fraudulent housing consultations to sign people up for HSS. Their response? We have carefully reviewed the matter, and at this time do not believe there is any cause for concern. We still have concerns, so went to the Fridley Shopping Center, where North Home operates.
Hi, my name's AJ Lagoe. I'm from Care 11. Is Mohammed Omar here?
No.
We need to speak with him about allegations that people's names are being forged on housing assessment documents.
Sorry, I just work here.
The worker promised to call a manager.
Okay. Thank you.
We waited and waited.
Excuse me, is somebody coming to speak with us? Hello?
And waited.
Is anyone coming to talk with us?
Eventually, we took the hint.
All right, please have Mr. Omar call us. I'm leaving my card.
No call came. We kept digging. The Blaine home, where Assad Lagoe lives, is tied to another HSS company called Liberty Plus LLC. Their website? Not exactly a wealth of info, unless their team is really staffed by people named Caregiver Name. State filings show Liberty Plus is run by a 25-year-old named Anwar Lagoe, and last year billed Medicaid $772,000.
They didn't do shit, I guess. Sorry for swearing.
Julie Quiros is homeless. We met her at a friend's place. She says Liberty Plus signed her up last year. She'd spotted an ad in a gas station bathroom and called them, but did not meet with them. Minnesota DHS rules clearly state HSS services are medical Medicaid services, and some of them must be provided in person. Also, a person must sign their own housing-focused, person-centered plan.
Did you ever sign any documents for them?
No, I never signed any documents, I don't think. I think they electronically signed them. They must have signed it because I never signed anything for them electronically.
Anwar Lagoe and Liberty Plus never responded to Carol Evans' interview request. As for Leo Human's Assad Lagoe,
it looks like it was forged, sir.
Nothing was forged, man.
In the wake of Carol Evans' reporting, Stephen received this letter from his insurance provider, Hennepin Health, notifying they will no longer pay for services provided by Leo Human Services because Minnesota DHS has taken action.
There needs to be housing stabilization, but there needs to be, accountability.
DHS tells Care 11 they have official investigations open into this entire web of companies. Leo Human, North Home, South Home, and Liberty Plus. So far, we know Leo Human has had its ability to bill Medicaid suspended. A federal investigation into HSS fraud in Minnesota has also been launched. For Care 11 Investigates, I'm AJ Lagoe.
Well, the legislature passes sweeping reforms in response to a Care 11 investigation.
And it's because of the lessons learned on what Care 11 did when AJ exposed the housing stabilization services.
Significant concerns of fraud and forgery. That's what Care 11 Investigates exposed in a $100 million a year program to help the elderly and the disabled find and maintain housing. Investigative reporter AJ Lagoe joins us with details on the action lawmakers took in response to his findings. AJ?
Julia, it's actually a positive outcome from the legislature going into special session to pass a budget. Lawmakers tell me that extra time allowed for purposeful and thoughtful bipartisan reform of a program we found overrun with alleged fraud.
Right, we're gonna slap a lid on it.
Reforms at the State House aimed at cracking down on those preying on Minnesota's poorest and most vulnerable, people just hoping to find a house.
They wrote this in the house.
Jesse Kingbird is a disabled combat veteran and homeless. He's currently staying with family. He applied for Housing Stabilization Services, known as HSS, earlier this year, but was denied, receiving this letter from the Minnesota Department of Human Services that claims he was already signed up with a different provider.
He told me, oh, well, you have services already. I said, from who?
Carol Evan helped him track down the paperwork showing the companies that claim to do his HSS consultation and be his provider.
Like, I had no idea who these people are. I never heard these names before.
Carol Evan's investigation discovered clients like Jesse being signed up and billed for HSS without their knowledge is an all too common allegation.
I did not sign this legal document.
You're saying it's forged?
Yeah, it has to be. There's no way it came from me in any way.
Most providers and people who work in this world have known that it's been happening for a long time.
Callie Proctor is the executive director of an HSS company called Spirit and Sand. She and many other providers say program reforms have been desperately needed to weed out bad actors.
With this program, if you want to commit fraud, is it easy?
I don't want to say it's easy because I am an HSS provider, but honestly, yeah, it is easy. It is easy. It's too easy.
And those bad actors we need to stop.
DFL State Senator John Hoffman says the special legislative session allowed he and GOP Senator Jim Abler to work on bipartisan reforms, completely rewriting state statute on how HSS is delivered.
It's really getting some transparency and accountability in the process.
Among the numerous new requirements, mandated background studies for owners and employees of HSS companies. Consultations with clients must be provided in person. Signatures are required by service recipients to verify the accuracy of what the provider bills for.
And it's because of the lessons learned on what Carol Evan did when AJ exposed the Housing Stabilization Services. So it was an immediate response to what we saw. So I appreciate that work.
State House work completed. Courthouse work to determine the extent of the alleged fraud still to come.
This is not a victimless crime. They need to be hauled off to jail. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that.
There are numerous state and federal investigations underway. Our investigation into HSS fraud is also not over. We're continuing to probe the scope of the problem as we seek to follow the money and unmask the people and companies behind it. Julie?
Well, I'm sure, like all other taxpayers, I thank you, AJ. Great work.